Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue our journey with Darcey and Stacey. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. Let's get to the show. As I always say, don't use YouTube as a replacement for therapy. If you need a therapist, get one. You deserve it. Let's get to the show.
This is from Georgie. So just in awe. I didn't expect it and never really gotten roses, let alone 100. It's so romantic. I feel like this is a romance novel.
Yikes. So we're hearing the exact same vibe that she had with Tom. Maybe with Jesse. It was a long time I watched her with Jesse ago. But this is the exact same mode she was in with Tom. Now, maybe this time it'll work out differently. But it doesn't instill confidence in me as a viewer. Of course, she doesn't have to instill confidence in me. She's free to live her life. But we remember with Tom, she said almost word for word what she's saying right now with this new fella. And there's nothing wrong with appreciating a romantic gesture like that. There's nothing wrong with being excited. There's nothing wrong with feeling that new relationship energy. There's nothing wrong with even framing it as I don't think I've ever had these feelings before. A lot of people will feel that when they're in love for the 10th time. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of normalcy to that. There's a lot of health in that in a lot of ways that helps people to bond in the beginning. There is something worrisome to me as a viewer, as someone that cares about Darcey. I do care about her. I care about everyone on the show. But I feel like I've spent so much time with Darcey that I do care and I have hopes for her. That it is worrisome to me that she's using that word, I'm in awe again. And my hypothesis about her is that because deep down she believes, this is total speculation, that she's not lovable and that everyone's going to abandon her, she protects herself from that schema by overcompensating and believing that everything is going to work out and that no one's ever going to leave her and that every man she dates is Prince Charming and they're going to get married right away and nothing bad is ever going to happen and everything's going to be fine, everything's going to be fine, everything's going to be fine. And I'm going to deny any indication of things not working out. She barely knows this guy. Now, maybe her and this guy live the rest of their lives together. Law of averages, if we're going to roll the dice, it's not going to work out. Any relationship in the beginning, particularly at the stage that they're at, as far as I can tell, they had a one-night stand at the Super Bowl, and they've been video chatting. And we know that from past relationships that with Jesse and with Tom, she had an extremely idealized view of these men before she met them in person, and then almost immediately the problems would start once she met them in person. So the fact that she isn't a little bit cautious of just like, well, I met a hot guy and we had a great time and we seem to be connecting, but who knows, this could end tomorrow. But I'm in it to win it and let's find out. But I'm not going to hold my breath to make sure this thing works out. That's not how that idiom or that saying goes, but hope you get what I'm saying. That's the other thing I acquired from my lovely parents is a terrible incompetence when it comes to idioms and sayings. A stitch in time saves, about 13 or something like that. Anyway, so I'm really worried about Darcey. What am I looking for? What I'm looking for Darcey is I'm in therapy right now and I'm working on myself and I'm learning new things about myself. And this hot guy that I like, that I barely know, sent me roses, and that's pretty cool. And we'll see how that works out. Maybe it'll work out. Maybe it won't. We'll find out, And if it works out, great. I would love that to happen, but I don't need it to happen because I'm a lovable person. Instead, what's happening, I believe, is a lack of awareness of that schema of I'm a terrible human being. No one's going to love me. I'm ugly. I am abandonable. Other people can't be trusted. Just a lot of that schema that keeps being reinforced by multiple, relationships. And then this denial of that and like, everything's fine here. Everything's going to work out. Oh my God, I'm in awe. Everything's going to work. This idealization of him, putting all your eggs, including your own ego eggs, in the basket of this new guy. So I'm worried. But maybe it'll work out. I kind of hope it does. The guy seems like a nice guy, but I don't know. We barely saw anything about him.
Getting these flowers really made me feel beautiful and loved. I mean, or at least cared for, which is a lot different from my last two boyfriends. Georgie invited me to go to New York City to visit him. He's sexy, he's sweet, and he's a listener, he's understanding. He's just a really cool guy. I'm excited to meet him again. I really want to trust what I feel like is in my gut. My gut is saying, he could be the one.
So nothing wrong with your gut, but we literally have video evidence of two other relationships where she went with her gut and it didn't work out. So how about you just say, well, my gut is saying yes, but I don't have enough data. We haven't been in person dating for a long time. I get why people want things to work out, and they on date 2 they're like, oh my God, this is gonna last forever. I get the desire, the falling in love, but you can have both. You can have both a realistic skepticism of the future and an appreciation for the moment at hand. Boy, this is lovey. I really love this. The roses, and it could all end tomorrow, but maybe it won't. But it could end tomorrow, but maybe it won't. I'm so happy right now. Nothing wrong with that.
You like horses?
I like horse.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I like that one.
I like the white.
It's nice, like special. We're building memories right now. It's a great feeling. I mean, it's what we've been waiting for. It's, I think, the beginning of something special. This is amazing. Oh my God, this is so romantic, babe.
Can you take a picture?
Yeah.
I will say, personal opinion, those carriage rides always look so cool, and then you actually get in them, and everyone's staring at you, and you're going at like 3 miles an hour, and there's a lot of noise, and it always looks like it's going to be amazing. And then, about 5 minutes in, I'm starting to think, okay, I'm ready to get off of it. I'm ready to move on with my next activity. And I'm like, oh, we paid for 45 minutes. And so we just have to sit here in this thing.
I just want to get this off my shoulders. I met with Tom. And I went to tell him to stop the communication, that you wanted to move on with your life and that you're over it. So we sit down and he just starts explaining how he was sorry. I mentioned about the last meeting you guys had and how he shouldn't have talked to you the way he talked to you and it wasn't cool, and totally admitted he was wrong. I cannot believe that she met up with Tom. I don't understand why she would do something like that to me. I just feel like Stacey's trying to snub the fact that I'm happy and I found a great guy too.
So there's so many weird things about this. One, why did Stacey have to meet with Tom? Why couldn't she just tell Tom over the phone or something, Darcey's moving on with her life, stop contacting her? Or Stacey could have literally just stayed out of it because it's not necessarily her business. Darcey is a grown woman. She can handle herself. But in the end, Stacey was trying to help. She should have gone to Darcey before meeting up with Tom, but, she was trying to help. And she communicated that, I think, pretty convincingly to Darcey in this moment. Now, from Darcey's standpoint, it makes sense that she would feel a little hurt by that. Why didn't you tell me beforehand? It feels a little weird to meet with my ex behind my back. But I'm hearing that you're trying to help me out, and I thank you. In the future, I wish you would just tell me in advance. Instead, Darcey is seeing it as some sort of competitive move, like Stacey's trying to ruin Darcey's current relationship by meeting up with Tom to tell him to stay away from her. It's just they have a very interesting relationship. And the more I watch the three of them interact, so we have, Darcey and Stacey and Florian, the more I'm getting a vibe. I'm trying to imagine what I would feel if I was a fourth person in this group. And I'm getting some indications, it's hard to know, that the three of them, or at least Darcey and Stacey, have this, history where Darcey takes up a lot of space, and Stacey knows to sort of let Darcey take up a lot of space. Otherwise, it'll be trouble for Stacey. Now, why would Darcey take up a lot of space? Some people will say, well, it's because she's narcissistic and she's selfish and she's immature. And, it's one conceptualization. But more often, what I find to be more accurate is that when you're anxious about people abandoning you, then you have available to you a lot of different coping strategies. And one of them is to take up a lot of space. Because if you take up a lot of space, then people kind of have to pay attention to you. And although you're not enthusiastic about sort of coercing other people or forcing other people to pay attention to you, at least you're getting some attention. And coerced attention or intimidated into paying attention to me is better than no attention at all, because when I was young and I didn't get any attention at all, it meant I was completely abandoned, and I don't want that to happen. I've treated people like this before. I don't know if Darcey is one of those people, but the way that, when it was Stacey and Florian, they had a certain vibe together. And then when Darcey entered into it, it seemed very much like suddenly Darcey was taking up a lot of emotional space. And Florian even mentioned that. He's like, oh, when Darcey shows up, he used different words, but essentially that Darcey takes up a lot of space. I don't know. Maybe it's just the moment that she's in. Maybe it's because she's on camera. Maybe Darcey is completely different when the camera's not around. But it is interesting and does add to the growing hypotheses that I have about Darcey. But let's continue watching.
Hey, I'm good. But are you really good, Darce? I just want to make sure.
Stacey, you live with me. I did take time for myself.
So you're not chasing after Georgie?
Absolutely not. He came to me, honey. Ask him. You want to call him?
So it's as I've been saying from the first time that I saw them fight like this in what seems to be a very competitive tone, it is so tragic and indicates that something was not quite right when they were growing up. Siblings will compete often, particularly twins, because you're compared so often to each other. However, when I see this level of competition and toxicity, I mean, any excuse the two of them have, there is a undercurrent of tension that is very palpable and very upsetting to watch, honestly. It's one thing for Darcey to argue with some guy that she's going to date temporarily. It's another thing to see twins in their 40s who seem to be just their worst enemy. And the narratives that they have about each other are seemingly so negative, and it indicates to me a lifetime of this sort of arguing with each other. And it's such a tragedy because whatever they went through, they could have been each other's saviors, if you will. Whatever they went through, I don't know what it was. Maybe they had a perfect childhood. I don't know. But whenever I've seen people who compete like this, so I've seen a number of different things. I've seen another profile where you will see kids when they're young and they're close in age, there's a lot of bickering. It's kind of normal for that to happen, and they're parented well enough. Well, those kids, when they're adults, they tend to be very close, or at the very least not toxic like this and so quick to compete with each other. It's so irrational, right, to compete with each other about like, well, my boyfriend is better than your boyfriend. It just, if you think about the age that would, if I just told you, so there are these twins, and whenever there's a chance, they will get in fights about whose boyfriend is better than each other's boyfriend. You would say, oh, sounds like 12 years old, maybe. So I wonder what happened to them back then that caused that. Now, we did learn that when they were young, they were considered to be the nerd or the quiet girls, and they also moved around a lot. So maybe they experienced a lot of ostracism and at the age of 12 that they're trying to make up for somehow. I don't know. More than likely, in a situation like this, I will see that both kids were not given enough love and attention by their parents. When you're not given enough love and attention by your parents, as I've said in previous videos, you're so deprived and you're so upset. And then you notice, wait, my twin sister is getting love and attention right now, even though your twin sister is also not getting enough love and attention. But you're self-centered, so because you're young, and all you think about is like, I want to grab that, twin of mine and throw off a bridge because I want all the love and attention. Because you're starting off from a place of deprivation and neglect. Usually that's the case with a situation like this. Of course, I don't know. But maybe we'll find out as the season progresses. But as I said, it's just tragic to watch that these two people could at least be neutral towards each other. And at best, they could really be supportive of like, oh, great, I'm so happy for you. And they do that sometimes. But when you watch this, you just have to wonder, are they really supportive of each other? Because right underneath the surface seems to be a lot of contempt.
I'm just gonna get this out of the way. At the end, he was just kind of like, your sister needs therapy.
I mean, yeah, you both everyone needs therapy. I need therapy. Florian needs therapy. Everyone needs therapy. It's okay. It's not a punishment. It's not an indication. Duh. Tom went to therapy. So what Darcey should say in this moment is like, well, yeah, I was thinking about going to a therapist. What's the big deal? Why is it a punishment or an indication of something bad? It's because of stigma. Oh, well, let's continue watching.
I don't care what the freaking guy said. No, I'm good.
I don't think there's anything wrong with therapy, just talking to somebody. I'd go with you if you want to talk to somebody.
I don't need that.
Yeah, okay, you don't need it, but give it a shot. Maybe it'll help. Maybe it won't help. But maybe it would help.
It triggered something in me right now that I'm trying to let go of. I have let go of. Moving on with my life. I don't need it, resurfaced.
I'm sorry. I went with good intentions.
But this is not what I expected coming here. I wanted to celebrate, enjoy our time, have some champagne, dance, enjoy New York City.
Wow, really?
Yep.
So this is interesting because in the past, we could only go off of Darcey's reactivity to people that she didn't know that well. Right now, we're seeing her relationship with her twin sister, which gives us more history and more stability. Because in the past, you'd be like, well, is it just because her and Jesse just come together in a very weird way? And then, well, maybe her and Tom come together in a different weird way. But now we're seeing another example of this sort of thing. And we could at least look to Stacey and say, like, well, Stacey's not being that bad, right? I don't think she approached that conversation very well. And of course, she should have told Darcey, I'm going to meet with Tom. But as Stacey very clearly said, I think convincingly, look, I was in it for the right reasons. I was trying to help. And then we see Darcey's reactivity to that. Why is that? I have some ideas, but I don't know if I want to talk about him yet. I'm guessing we're going to get a lot more data, and maybe I'll talk about him later. So the reason why I don't want to talk about it is because I just don't feel like I have enough data to really say at this point. So let's continue watching and see if I might say it in the future.
I would never do that to her. And the fact that she thinks I have problems and he made some good points, like, what the heck is he talking about? And why would she even believe the guy? She's being manipulated because he feels guilty for what he did and how he treated me. You know, I went through a lot. How dare anybody say that I need to work through problems? If I choose to go to a therapist, it's because I choose to. Unacceptable.
Right. And Tom can be an ex-boyfriend that you don't like, and he can also be right. Both can be true. So, I don't know. Maybe this is opening a door for therapy. I don't know. We'll find out.
Next time.
All right. Well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Thanks for joining me out there. Please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.